Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you do all great. Had a really great New Year's party. Unfortunately, I think not so because we were not able to party here in Germany, but I hope you were so anywhere in the world. So yeah, I hope you had a great move into 21. And yeah, today let me show you my PC. Okay, so just about to tell you the story about my PC. I built it in January 2020. so 1 year ago. And this PC is still the top notch since today. Okay, my PC is an Intel 18 core machine with 128 gigabytes of RAM. And I just did a Geekbench against the new Apple Mac Pro mid-late 2020. And it's ridiculous how good performing is my machine still nowadays. Okay, so let me move to another stream window. So guys, hey Andreas, hey Max, and hey people, nice to see you here. So people, I did today a Geekbench for my PC. First of all, I'm gonna show you what my station is for the people who are interested to see what kind of parts my station has. The link is here. I'm gonna copy that into the Twitch stream and into the YouTube stream. It's here and here. So let's move that. So this is my kit. You can watch it on kit.co. And again, it was built 2020 January. So 1 year ago. And you can almost have no better machine nowadays. At least a desktop CPU from Intel who can beat this beast. Okay. So to go into a detail, I've chosen the Corsair CC tower because it's really silent damp. So you cannot hear any noise out of that tower, PC tower. Okay, you can find it everywhere on Amazon, eBay. I think it's around 150 bucks, but Corsair series of towers is my go-to towers at all out there, especially when they are silent damped. Okay, this is very important. So I'm here in the studio. I have almost zero noise. So for me, it's important. Some people like to have noise in their studio, like that running fan in the background, but I really don't like it. I just hear a small fan running for my water cooling system in the PC, but I'm gonna show you that a little bit later. Okay. So yeah, my CPU is an 18-core Intel desktop processor, i9-10980XE. I think I just Googled a few minutes ago, and there is still no better or a CPU, desktop CPU with more cores out there from Intel. You can have one from in the new Apple Mac Pros, but those are all Xeon CPUs, okay? This is a desktop i9 CPU, and the desktop CPUs are usually more powerful than the Xeon CPUs, which are made for servers, mostly, okay? If you're running an Vienna Ensemble Pro machine, that's something totally different, but we're speaking here about the solo desktop Intel version, okay? So I'm running 128 gigabytes of RAM from Corsair, so you see, I'm relying to Corsair a little bit. I really like the quality of them. I never had something broken from them, so it's working all the time. It's 4 times 32 gigabytes because my main board can go up to 256 gigabytes of RAM, but I never have used more than maybe 96 gigabytes of RAM or something. So there's still place to update the mainboard with more RAM if I need it in the future. Okay, let's go forward. Max, yes, I'm German, but I try to speak English for all the other people today. Okay, yeah. So my graphic card is a Gigabyte one. It's not very powerful, it's a very old one, but it has 4 outputs. I think it has 2 HDMI outputs and 2 outputs for usual monitors, so I'm able to run 4 different screens. And just let me show you how my screen setup here is looking. I check something new, so I can show you with my mobile phone something. Let's look if it's working. Yeah, it's working. So you see, let's see. This is my monitor setup. This is a 4K monitor, this one, but it's a PC monitor, it's not a television. with 4K resolution, a usual HD monitor, and we have here a widescreen monitor for mixing. Okay, great stuff. I hope you enjoy the tour. So yeah, so I'm just using this graphic card for having 4 outputs. In the past I had 4 monitors, but right now I'm relying to 3 monitors. One for the main setup for Cubase, one for the picture on top, and one on the left for the mixing stuff. So yeah, that's it. I'm using for my main intern SSD Samsung 970 Evo Plus. It has write and read 1500 roundabout. The reason why I use that M2 SSD is it's intern. It has a faster speed than the extern SSDs. The extern SSDs usually have something around 500, 550 write and read. And I got on my SSD, let me check. How it's called? Where do I got it? It's called Windows C. And I got on it Windows and only Cubase. So I'm running on the intern SSD M2 from Samsung, only Windows 10 Pro and Cubase. I'll tell you a little bit later why I did it like that. Okay. Then I got 2 SSDs of 2 TB from Samsung, also the QVOs. I know they are not living so long, the QVOs. They are a little bit cheaper than the EVOs, I think so. And the Pros, especially the Pros from Samsung, having a much more longer living than the QVOs. But I'm changing my SSDs every year because I'm using this professional. I need to make sure that the SSDs are always running. So yeah, so I even had to change the Pro SSDs or the Evo SSDs just to make sure everything is still new and everything is still top notch and I can work this year. You know, usually it's like that. I have a lot of jobs at the beginning of the year over the whole year. So I need to make sure that even projects I did in January, February are still there in October, November, December. Okay. 2 TB SSDs for samples. Then I got 2 1 TB SSDs. One is just for Cubase audio. So I'm putting my whole Cubase audio on one SSD. I think it's also called Cubase audio. Let me check it on a PC. Yeah, it's called Cubase audio. You see. On this SSD are only Cubase projects and the Cubase audio files. And this SSD is always copied overnight to another SSD. So if this SSD gets broken anyhow, I just can simply put it out of my SSD dock. I'm gonna show you a little bit later and put the copied one from last night in. I also thought maybe to synchronize it with Dropbox, but anyhow, I don't like to have Dropbox on my studio PC. So let's go a little bit more about Corsair. You see, I'm using the CPU power from Corsair here, the power voltage. And it's also a very silent one. So I'm working with the setup since January 2020 and I never had a single problem on this machine. I never had a blue screen. I never had something hanging. I never had a problem with Cubase at all. I'm using Cubase, just to tell it to you. I'm using Cubase. Logical wise, not Logic because I'm on a PC here. So yeah, those are all silent parts in a damped tower. So we can hear almost nothing. I'm just gonna go to my PC a little bit nearer with my mobile phone a little bit later. So you will check if you can hear something at all. Are gaming SSDs have limited life for read and write? Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm changing my SSDs every year. Not depending if it's a Pro, Evo, or QVO version. Okay. So for my CPU fan, I'm using the Corsair Hydro series. It's a water cooling system. You got 2 big fans on top of your PC or on the back, but the bigger the fans are, the less you can hear. Okay, they are not running so fast. They are running very slow. So you just hear maybe a small noise. I'm gonna show you later, but it's not comparable with the usual CPU fan. So surprise, surprise, I'm running Thunderbolt 3 on my PC. Just a minute, please. So, the most people are thinking like, okay, Thunderbolt 3, that's only something for Apple people. No, it isn't, because we need to speak about it. Thunderbolt at all was developed by Intel, Apple, and I think Asus together. You can only have Thunderbolt connections, I think at least it was the same for last year, on Asus boards, okay? So I'm gonna show you a little bit later my Asus board. But you can definitely have Thunderbolt connections on Asus board. I'm not sure if it's the same with Gigabyte boards, maybe you know it. But I just found Thunderbolt 3 connection on Asus boards. And I got my, I got my audio interface connected to Thunderbolt 3 to have the lowest latency at all. Maybe I can show you this still even a little bit later on Cubase, but yeah. Let's see this, how the time is flowing. So I'm using Windows 10. Very important not to go to Windows 7 root, because a lot of hardware is not supported anymore by Windows 7. And I think you cannot have any updates more for Windows 7. So if you're setting up a new PC for music production, go definitely Windows 10. I think Windows 8 is still very stable, but I just had a little bit fear to move from Windows 7 to Windows 10, because Windows 7 was very stable. But again, I didn't have a problem with Windows 10 since January 2020. Nothing. Worked perfectly. And I don't need to speak about a problem if you're going with a Apple PC, let's say a MacBook, or let's say a Mac Pro or something, and you need to update from, let's say, Catalina to Big Sur or something. You know, you need to update the iOS by Apple. Usually, a lot of people have problems that their stuff is not working anymore. Let's say the audio interface is not supported by the new iOS by Apple. Native Instruments is not supported, your favorite reverb plugin, etc. And this is not possible at all if you're working professionally as a music composer, or let's say at all if you're working professional at all with some PCs or Apple devices or something. So this is why it doesn't make sense to me to go from a studio PC the Apple route. And I'll tell you also something a little bit later about it, how cheap my PC was compared to an almost similarly setup to an Apple device. Let's say Apple Mac Pro or something, okay? Another thing I got, I don't have my SSDs anymore intern in my PC. It's outside of my PC, sitting in a Magic Dock from Blackmagic, multi-dock 10G. It's supported by a 20 gigabyte connection, or I think a 10 gigabyte connection. But let's say I have here 4 SSD in. Everything is writing with 500 MB per second. So I got maximum 2 gigabytes per second here going through the lane, okay, of this SSD. So I cannot reach 10 gigabytes with usual SSDs from Samsung with 500 read, 500 write. So, and you even wouldn't go faster intern, at least if you don't have an M2 SSD, okay, as I showed you before. And let me show you how this is looking. Let me start the camera again. Let's get the connection. We got a connection. So the Blackmagic multi-dock is looking like this. But with this setup, I simply can make sure that when an SSD is broken, I simply can take it out and put another in, which I copied before, hopefully. Okay, so I don't need to open my PC with screws and having problems with cables and all that kind of stuff, you know. My SSDs are all outside connected to my Blackmagic multi-dock. And I'm even thinking about getting a second multi-dock to the setup to have more flexibility in the future, maybe with samples. As I told you before, I got two terabyte SSDs, which are almost full. and two 1 terabyte SSD, which I could upgrade to a 2 terabyte as well. But yeah, I'm only using 3 SSDs as sample SSDs. The fourth SSD is just a Cubase SSD, and it never gets fully more than maybe 500, 800 gigabyte or something. I think at the moment I am, let me check. So this is now since a year, okay? And I'm working almost every day in my setup. You see, I got free space 500 gigabytes. So this means I had per year 400 gigabytes of space to write on it. And if we go to plugins 1, I got from 900 gigabyte 443, so it's 50%, and the other ones are almost the same with 2 terabytes. You can see free space 800, and the second one free space 600. I got a lot of Spitfire SSD, Spitfire plugins, instruments, and this is why they are so full, because they are heavily full with samples there and instruments. So I was just confused. I did today a Geekbench with my PC this morning. Let's check that. It was 1:30 p.m. today, and I got with my 18 core. So this is just about CPU performance. We are not speaking right now about graphic cards or something, you know, or maybe graphic performance. We are not graphic guys. We just need monitors. If you are going maybe fully as a full professional graphic guy, video editing, maybe picture editing, maybe an Apple device, is it worth it? But for the music studio route, it's really not worth it. And I'm gonna show you why, how much this PC costs me and how much the Apple device is costing against it. Okay, so let's see. I got a single core from 1163 and a multi-core about 16,000. Okay, and I just checked on Geekbench what this is, 1163. So let's see. So let's check that again. 1163 was my 18 core machine. If you can see, the Mac Pro late 2019 with 24 cores has a lower single core CPU performance than my PC has. Now guess how much this PC, how much the price for this PC is. 24 cores, almost the same in RAM. I got 128. So let's check that, okay? You can see the price. You see, it's almost 15,000 euros. And it doesn't have 128 gigabytes of RAM. If I go up 192 gigabytes of RAM, we are almost $17,000. Again, it's a 24 core, 2.7 gigahertz. My PC has a CPU of 3 gigahertz and 128 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go lower. You're around 15,000 euro. Let's go higher, 122. Hey Stefano, nice to see you. So let me check the invoice I got for my PC I built in January 2020. Can see that? Can see? So my machine in 2020 was 3.3k euro. And it's still even better than the latest Mac Pro they got with 24 cores compared. Okay. You can see again, my single core was 1163 and the Mac Pro Lite with 24 cores is 1132. Then let's go to the multi-core performance, which is also very important. Sorry. So it's 16,000. Let's say it's 16,000. We don't care about the numbers here in the back, okay? It's 16,000. Let's go for the multi-core performance. 16,000. So the Mac Pro Late 16 cores has not 15,000, okay? The 24 cores is a little bit better with 18,000. But let's compare again the price, okay? My 18 core Intel desktop CPU has a performance of 16,000 here. And costs me in totally 3.3k euros. This one, 24 cores, with a little bit, just a small better performance. I think no one will really recognize it as a performance of, let's say, a price of 15,000 euro. Let's say it has now a little bit less of RAM, but it has 15,000 euro. We all know you pay for Apple RAM, it's usual RAM you get outside on the market, double, 3 times the prices as the same with SSD stuff in there. Okay, I'm not speaking right now about the new M1 machines. Let's speak a little bit later about it. The M1 machines seems to be very great. And Stefano, I cannot agree. I need to say I just saw some comparisons from M1 machines to nowadays CPUs from Intel, and it seems that the M1 machine is really a breakthrough. But I'm just gonna speak a little bit later about it, just to make sure you all understand what it is. So yeah, so you can see my PC was 3.3, just to make sure it's all the same parts I showed you before. The Corsair Obsidian series tower, Intel Core i9 18 core machine, 3 GHz, and it has a boost to I think 5 GHz or something. We didn't spoke yet about the Prime motherboard, but I'm always using Asus Prime motherboards because I'm using them since 2013 in my first machine, which had I think 4 cores, and this machine is still running since 2013 as a second machine in my setup here if my first machine shouldn't run because of any reason. I mean, it was running all the time since January 2020. I know a lot of Apple guys gonna tell you right now, it's the iOS I love from Apple, etc, etc. I mean, I'm not an Apple hater. You know, I have a Apple iPhone, I have an Apple Watch and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just seeing the performance of some stuff. And if I would have a similar machine from Apple here in my studio, and I'm not sure if it would work so great with Cubase, because Apple and Cubase always have those problems together, you know. It would cost me at least 15k to have a worse performance than I have right now. And this is almost ridiculous. Who's paying 15k in terms of music production, okay? We don't speak right now about graphic stuff, etc. It's totally the opposite maybe if you're cutting videos, because I know Apple has special graphic cards and iOS is working extremely great with Final Cut Pro, etc. And if you're talking about Logic, I mean, Logic is great, but you have not the options and possibilities you have in Cubase. If we are just talking right now about stemming processes in Cubase 11, you can stem out so many stems in just one click, you know. You can even stem them out in different setups with plugins, no plugins on top, just the mastering plugins, just the insert plugins. I think that's not possible in Logic. But I'm gonna tell you, I ordered from Apple my new M1 Apple MacBook Pro, and it's coming in February 21. Little bit confused. February 21, so next month. And I'm gonna do a nice comparison between Logic and Cubase performance on this M1 machine, because if you can see performances here on benchmark, let's say single core, as you can see, the latest Macs and MacBooks have really great performance on the M1 machines. And this is simply because the M1 machines have a different CPU structure than the others have. Just let me put it up right now really fast here. Thank you. So yeah. So I saw a lot of videos about the M1 machines and I'm really hyped about it. But I fear that Cubase won't be optimized at all on Apple in the future, especially on the M1 machines. So Cubase user maybe might not use this faster option M1 has right now, maybe with Logic, okay? So, and this gonna be a reason why I also gonna work maybe a little bit with Logic, because this will be my go-to on the root setup, the M1 MacBook Pro, and let's see how this is performing next month. So let me check some questions. D is telling, I think the upcoming iMac Pros with the M1 chips will be the best thing to come for music production in the future. Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, the late Mac Pros, which came out in 2019, with the 28 cores and the 24 cores, I think they are mostly done for graphic and video users. But as always, Apple is missing a little bit the people who are working with Logic, or maybe even more with Cubase. If Cubase would work better on an Apple device, maybe it would work on it. And so it's not really so optimized for audio users, you know. You can see you can have a really new desktop machine for 3K. I've built it in January for 3K. I'm pretty sure you can get the parts right now for maybe 2 or 2.5K, because it's 1 year old. And yeah, I think it's should be something around, maybe even around 2K, and it's so easy to set up. You know, I just watched some YouTube videos and built this PC by my own at all. You know, and if you have done it a few times, it's so easy. It's just plug and play. It's not as easy as USB, but it's easier. But I also can understand the easygoing things for Apple people having a solid station standing there already. They don't need to remove anything. But sometimes it's really good to remove maybe RAM or something. And then it's getting again ridiculous with Apple stuff, the old MacBooks, when you're not able to change the running SSD in turn, you know. And I have an iMac for my office device, and I'm not able to change the RAM at all, because there's no screw anymore on the back to change RAM out, you know. So yeah. Let's check some other questions. So the next M1 machine will definitely be a great thing for Apple. I think so. I hope so at all. Because I need to say, I think I paid for the M1 Mac Pro 2K with 1 terabyte. Let me check fast. Maybe I can get into it here. I can watch it. Where's my account? Oh, I see. I don't get in anymore because I don't have the password here. But yeah, I paid 2K for the 8-core, let me think, 8-core CPU and the highest GPU in there and 1 terabyte SSD, 2K. And I saw comparisons of the MacBook Air, which is just in the highest optimization, maybe 16% lower from the performance than the MacBook Pro. But I just wanted to make sure that I have the best possibility set up for Mac in February for going on tour, maybe working anywhere else, maybe on holidays or something, you know, and to see it. And 2K is very reasonable to me. I mean, I just saw the older Macs. My setup would be, if I would like to have it, like I want to have it like 4 or 5K for the MacBook Pro. Okay. People using Logic since they start music production are kind of chained to buying those expensive app products. Yeah, maybe. The quality performance ratio is now unsustainable with Apple, and in the future I don't think it will be different. Well, I hope so it will be different. And I have very high hopes on the M1 machine. But I also hope that they update Logic for it all the time. So Logic will have a much better performance later on the M1 than it had before, because I know as the M1 machine came out, Logic was running over this translation program, also Cubase would run. How was it called again? Something with R. You know the name? I don't know it anymore. But it was not optimized for the M1 machine. And this is also ridiculous. Again, I'm not the Apple hater. I just see the facts. And I can understand people who really like Apple. I also like Apple for my watch. I also like Apple for my iPhone. I even had a 2x 12-core machine cheese grater, but it died. It died, I think, 1 year ago. And it worked great as a main machine. But again, my PC I have since 2013, my almost very first professional studio PC I've built by myself with my own stuff in there. I was choosing online, you know, and I was watching YouTube videos and checking what is running, what is not running, etc. with each other, the parts. Is still running today. So this is 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, you see. And this machine was also 2K, I think. And after that, above the machine, it was also top-notch 2017. It was an 8-core machine. Also for 2.5K, I think so. I got it also below, under my desktop, as a second machine, as a slave. If I'm running very big projects, I'm running my PC as a main PC, and the second PC, the 8-core, as a slave for Vienna Sample Pro. So I'm hosting only samples on there, so I can go in with very, very high performance tracks. Like let's say I could use maybe 5,000 tracks in a Cubase project or something. Because my main PC is only handling Cubase in audio, and my slave PC would be handling just the sample stuff over Vienna Sample Pro. But nowadays I really prefer to work just on one machine, and I did big film scores, trailer stuff, production music, like 500 tracks in one project, and never came to a problem with this machine yet. So let's check some more questions. Which software do you use to back up your hard drives? Michael Heck. Let me check for you. I don't remember anymore the name. It's a red icon here. See, you have so many icons here. I just used it a few days ago. I think it's called Recovery or something. Oh yeah, it's called Paragon Recovery. No, we check. Yeah. Software I use is called Paragon Festplatten Manager 15. Can you still see this? Can you still see the screen? Because it was offline for a second. I hope so. So yeah, basically I'm doing clones with Paragon Festplatten Manager 15 here of each SSD I got, still manually nowadays. Let's see some questions from Stefano. Yeah, I think the Mac Mini is better from the performance right now. Even the Mac Mini M1 is the highest top notch you can have nowadays. Let's check that. I saw the benchmark anywhere. You can see the Mac Minis M1 are at least on a single core performance all in the top number 3. Mac Mini M1 number 1, MacBook Pro M1 number 2 with an almost ridiculous difference here. And I think the Mac Mini is cheaper than the MacBook Pro. And then MacBook Air. So the MacBook Air has a performance of 1693. And it's so much cheaper. I still think $200 or $400 than the Mac Pro or something, depending. But it has a 20% roundabout less performance than the MacBook Pro here. Actually, I started music production with Cubase when I was 16 years old. Cubase crashed so often. All projects being lost. Yeah, so I need to say I had problems with Cubase maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I hear that so often that people have problems with Cubase, still nowadays. I'm running the newest version Cubase 11.5, I think so. I never have crashes. I don't know what you install on your PCs or what you're watching on your PC or something. I even have my PC connected all the time to the internet. So my streaming PC right now is the PC I'm working also with in the studio, okay? And I just try to install the most necessary programs like WinRAR, zip stuff, Adobe, maybe a graphic program like Paint or something. And then I'm just installing stuff I need for music production. And I don't download any Mozilla Firefox extensions, etc. So I really never had really a problem with Cubase since 2013, I need to say. Maybe this might lean to your audio interface and the driver you got there, but that is just an option. I just hear that sometimes your graphic driver is making a problem with your PC and Cubase together, you know, so you might need to check out what it might be, maybe. But to stop music production just because of crashing Cubase doesn't sound so good to me, honestly. Yes, Stefano, I agree. I mean, I never would pay 15K for Mac Pro, which has less performance than my CPU here. It's really a question of price and performance. It exists a lot of videos out there which compare Apple devices with PC devices in terms of, again, I repeat myself again, in terms of music productions. And I just know that most successful movie composers like Hans Zimmer, Chunky XL, etc. was a time in Chunky XL studio and had the chance to work in his studio a little bit and see how it's going there. So he's working totally with Cubase and PCs and servers, Vienna Sample Pros. So if professional people, which are highly professional doing movie music like Deadpool, etc., maybe other movies, using this cannot be the issue at the end, you know. They are not using Apple devices because if they get a new OS, it's not working with their devices like Native Instruments or with Cubase or something, or with your audio interface driver or something. And Apple is saying, oh, this leans to the producer of your hardware you got, like the audio interface or maybe Cubase. Yeah, maybe, but the communication could be better, you know. Apple definitely knows that a lot of people out there using Cubase on Apple devices. And the same with audio interfaces. So speak with the people, let them code new drivers before the OS is coming out or when the OS is coming out from Apple, so you don't have any more problems with your OS. So just because if I need to make an update on my Apple OS on my main studio PC or something, maybe, let's say I would have an Apple Mac Pro here, and nothing would run anymore, or maybe just the half because of the new OS. This is the main reason to me, or let's say the second reason to me, to not have an Apple device in my studio right now. For sure, the main reason is the price, about, again, 15K and the worst performance, you know. You even don't get the performance I have with Cubase on a PC with Logic, you know. I mean, you even cannot stem out the stuff I stem out with Cubase on my PC with Logic. So don't please say you got Logic, it's optimized for the Apple Mac Pro, etc. It's optimized for that, but it has not a better performance really at all. Let's look for more questions. Corinna Sechelario, I have the 4K 43-inch Philips monitor for 4 years. It's working great. Yeah, it changed my life, I need to say. I got one here on my kit.co. You can see all my hardware I got also in the video description later. And if not, you can simply go to kit.co, Micro Maas. I'm using the Philips BDM 4 0, or let me write it in the chat maybe. Oh no, it's I'm gonna write it later in the description. Philips BDM4037U. It's a 4K device, and I can see so much Cubase tracks on this device. Okay, so I don't have to scroll at all. Maybe when the 4K screen is full, I have maybe 80 or 100 tracks or something, depending on how small or big I make everything. So the 4K device for everybody who's working or has the money over, who's working professional in the music industry, get yourself a 4K PC screen, not a television. I say it again. Get yourself a PC screen, 4K, 42 or inch or something maybe. I think it has 58 centimeters here, like that, or maybe even a little bit bigger. It's so big, and it changed my life in terms of music production, and it simply goes faster. Everything you had before, maybe on 3 screens, you can right now have on 1 screen. Okay, but this is simply perfect. So I agree with Corinna. It's a great monitor. The one I got here on my kit is the newer one, I think so. I'm not sure if my old one is still available. 435. Yeah, this is the newer one, and this is the one I would recommend on a kit to buy if you want to, if you're looking for a 4K screen. Okay. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the chat today. Let me check some more questions. Full house today. Yeah, 11 people. Great one. Newer AMD CPUs are really good regarding price performance, but Michael built his PC before they were released, I think. No, I don't think. Yeah, it was shortly before the new AMD CPU was released. This is right. But I saw so many, how can I say it about AMD? AMD had in the past so many problems with audio performance. And the problem I always had with AMD is they say they got 16 cores. They got really 16 cores. But compared to an Intel device, it's performing like an 8 core Intel CPU in the past. I'm not sure about Ryzen. I know Dirk Ehlert built himself a Ryzen CPU with, I think, 32 cores or something. And I don't know the Geekbench, but I still guess that the AMD performance, let's say 32 cores, has maybe the same performance or less than the 18 core Intel CPU, because both has a different structure, and there's a reason why AMD is cheaper than Intel. It's still, unfortunately, I need to say, it still doesn't have the same quality as Intel has. Okay, the problem about AMD is also the hardware structure behind it. You need the main board for the CPU, which is working great. You need RAM, which is working great with your main board and a CPU. Of course, if you're going to Apple route, you don't need to think about it. But in the past, those combinations, CPU, main board, and RAM for AMD wasn't as stable as Intel was. So I just can recommend, if you go for a studio PC, pay a few more bucks for less cores on Intel than buying an older machine from AMD. I cannot be sure at the moment, and I don't want to guess really how the new Ryzen is going. But I hear it's going good as a slave machine in a Vienna Ensemble Pro setup. Okay, for the people who don't know what it is, just Google Vienna in Austria, Vienna Ensemble Pro. Basically, it's a setup where you can connect different PCs to each other. You got one main PC or even an Apple device. It doesn't depend if it's Apple or PC. Basically, you have, let's say, one PC from Intel, and you can connect it through the Ethernet to 5 Apple PCs. And you got the power of all PCs and Apple devices together. Because the main PC is handling the iOS stuff like Windows and the Cubase stuff on it. So it's simply processing Cubase and iOS. But there's the sample stuff, which is behind, like streaming the samples. You know, streaming a big library from Spitfire pianos or something, is going through Ethernet to the other PCs. So the other PCs, which are in the Ethernet connection, just working as a streaming PC. Because if you're streaming on your PC from an SSD, it's also streaming. And it's almost the same as streaming over internet or Ethernet, not internet. Maybe in the future, internet is also possible to stream your plugins over internet, but it's over the Ethernet. So yeah, this about Vienna Ensemble Pro. Stefano Macciarelli, hi Michael, why haven't you considered AMD? Yeah, this was the reason, because of stability. Negativist, really good regarding price. Yeah, I told you before the AMDs are cheaper, but this doesn't mean cheaper is better always, you know. Corinna Tishoyaru, Intel have better latency than AMD for audio applications. Yeah, I think this might be right, but I'm not 100% sure. So the guy of Vienna with Vienna Ensemble Pro is using the 5950X, okay? Sounds good. You know, this is all good for music producers. We need competition in this field. We have Apple, which is totally overpriced, okay? Even the Apple fan people need to say it's totally overpriced. We got Intel, which still got a high price. We have AMD, which is the middle price. And yeah, I think, or I hope so, that the AMD performances will be as good as the Intel performances. But I still cannot see it. Let's say if Intel is number 1 for me, AMD is for me number 1.5 or something. I would use it in a Vienna Ensemble Pro setup as a slave, but not as my main machine. Okay. Intel has a great stability. Again, my old machine from 2013 is still running. I'll just show you my old machine. Let me wait for a minute, okay? Action. Here it is. You can see this. After the old machine back, still working. And it's connected to the old slave I got here. But the old slave is also connected to my main PC. So yeah, the reason, you know, I worked like that. 2013 till 2017 maybe, my main machine was an Intel 4-core. All SSDs are still in there. The old machine is still in there. It's still connected to my screens here, because when a customer or a publisher is coming to me and saying, hey, can you power up maybe the project from 2015? Most people are lost, but I still got my old projects running. Then 2017, I got my main machine from 2013 as a master PC and got the 8-core Intel CPU below the desktop as a slave for the Vienna Ensemble Pro. So from 2017 till 2020, I worked in a Vienna Ensemble Pro setup without any problems. But we all know 2 PCs, 2 possible problems. It's the same with Apple. So I changed 2020 January with my own build setup. You can watch here on kit.co. And it's still working nowadays. And it's still the most best, in my opinion, performing PC you can have out there when it's going about desktop CPUs. You know, for Intel, you have desktop CPUs and you have the server CPUs. For server CPUs, they're working a little bit different. You can have both 2 CPUs on the main board and maybe possible cores of 48. But usually they don't have a high single core speed, which is important for music production. For music production is important a high single core speed and as much cores as possible. So if you would have many cores with a high single core speed, this would be great. So I'm running the 18-core machine, the i9-10980XE. But I think the 14-core machine has a higher single core speed. I think it's around, let me check. Maybe we can check that here on PC. Let's configure something. We go Intel, the high root. So 18 cores has 3 gigahertz. We got 14 cores, 3.3 gigahertz as it best machine. Okay. 12 core, 3.5. So there is not much difference between 3 and 3.5 at the end here, if you see that. So yeah, just show you 15K Apple PC, a 3K my PC. And again, let's check again the core speed. My single core was 1.63, and this is better than the MacBook Pro. Let me check which it was here. And the Mac Pro Lite, 1.16. So it has the same single core speed as the new iMacs mid 2020. We know that the iMacs and the iMacs Pro are very powerful, but yeah. And it has the multi-core speed of 16,000, which is still better as a 16-core machine from Mac Pro, Apple, and almost the same, little bit worse than the Mac Pro 24 cores from Apple. Stefano Macchiarelli, are you using Thunderbolt 3 audio board on this machine? Yes, I'm using Thunderbolt 3 audio board on my machine. As you can see, I'm having an Asus Prime board. So the high prices Asus boards all have the Thunderbolt 3 connections. And prove me I'm wrong, I think only the Asus boards have Thunderbolt 3 connections. So you just get a Thunderbolt 3 PCIe e-card here to plug it into your PCIe plug here, basically. And I'm running a Thunderbolt 3 audio interface from Universal Audio Apollo. It's an Apollo 8, and it got a special Thunderbolt 3 connection in the back. So this was heavy priced. I think, let's check. Is it here? No, I don't got it in yet here, but I'm gonna put it in. It was around 2K. But again, I'm a professional composer. I'm working full-time in this area. I need stable latency. I need stable drivers. And UAD still is the best to me in terms of audio interfaces. I don't use the external plugins like Reverb or something from UAD because they are not stable to me. They are always dismissed when I'm working with them. And I'm not so convinced by the UAD plugins. But the UAD drivers and the stability of this audio interface is simply unbeatable to me. It got 8 inserts, 8 outserts. I used them for some outboards I had in the past, like synths or something. But nowadays I'm only working in the PC. AR gaming 3 Tripper is another level, yeah. Might be. Stefano Macchiarelli, no, I have on board Thunderbolt 3 on my Gigabyte. I see you're using Asus Thunderbolt 3 card. It's working fine. It's working great. You see? Yeah. So I just can recommend a combination of Intel PC as your main setup and as your audio interface, Apollo stuff. Sure, you need to check the Apollo stuff has USB connections, 3.2 I think so. USB connectable, then you got Thunderbolt connections. If you got the chance to get in your CPU, in your PC, a Thunderbolt card, go the Thunderbolt way, because Thunderbolt, which is now, I think, USB 4.0, it's the new name from Intel to Thunderbolt 3. So basically, everything in the future gonna be USB 4, which is Thunderbolt 3, which is 40 gigabytes per second stream. And basically, you could have 40 M2 SSDs on an external device, almost, let's say 35 devices of them, and have them stream at the same time samples. This would be the band lane of this 40 gigabyte connections. Okay. Yeah, great. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the chat. If you still got some questions, let me know. You can find the links of my workstation kit in the description of the video below. If not, you can go to kit.co and simply search for Michael Maas. To be honest, those are affiliated links. This means if you buy something from there, I get a small percentage back. If you think you need to buy something from here, but this is not a must, it's just a recommendation. I'm running this machine since January 2020. You also can have built this stuff by manufacturers. I think PCZ is someone who's building that stuff. So you can choose parts which are fitting perfectly to each other. So yeah, works perfect for me. Okay, let's see again for the end. My core speed for the single core, multi-core, benchmark, multi-core 16,000. So mine was between place number 2 and 3 from the late Mac Pro, which is 15K or 20K or 25K, depends. Single core speed 16,000. Let's check again. No, 11,006, 11,000, 11,006. So anywhere here, but for a much cheaper price than Apple had here. Let's check me again. No, this is wrong. My price was 3.3K. And if you got any more questions, let me know. I will stay here for a few minutes. And I just hope you enjoy the chat so far. Let's speak a little bit more about Apple and PC root, or maybe AMD. So Max was asking what kind of graphic card I have. I have the Gigabyte connection. Here, the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1050 Ti, because it has 4 outputs in the back for possible 4 screens. Here. Let's check if I missed some questions. SSDs have limited life for read and write. Yeah, this is something you really need to check, you know. SSDs have a much longer life than the usual old HDDs. But I would recommend change them 1 time per year. Andreas Gajewski said he has his SSDs now for 5 years. So Andreas, I guess now if you power up your studio PC, it stopped running tomorrow because you said this. It's Murphy's Law, you know. Now, to be honest, if you are a full-time composer, you are investing in stuff like this. So I'm buying every year new SSDs. It's 4 SSDs. Usually I upgrade them to bigger SSDs from Samsung, and I only buy Samsung SSDs. They came with a Samsung QVO last year summer, or last year, I think 20, which is a little bit cheaper than the Evo and much cheaper than the Pro version. The Pro version is a little bit smaller, but again, if you need to really run something extremely highly streamable, which needs a lot of read and write, go the Samsung M2 device route, because they have write and read 1500 write, 1500 read, which is 3 times better than the outside SSDs you're coming. But again, you never have problems with an external SSD on the bandwidth or something, you know. I know Apple devices have much faster bandwidth. In turn, I think it's also M2 SSDs. And maybe they are running in a special setup and can go up to 2 gigabytes per second or something in streaming. But you don't need it yet. Again, I hope so that the M1 device by Apple is really changing the music industry, because it's much cheaper than the Mac Pro we got before. And I hope they get built into new Mac Pros, the M1s. I'm so confused sometimes by MacBook Pro and Mac Pro and Mac Air. It's a Mac Pro, MacBook Pro, let's say it's almost all the same for me right now. But again, I ordered my MacBook Pro M1 with 16 gigabytes of RAM, the most biggest option here for the M1s. They are just the maximum RAM you can build in a 60 gigabytes right now. And I got the 8-core machine, the 8-core GPU graphic in there, and it cost me 2K. And the old Mac Pro was with the same setup, I think, around 4.5K, because I wanted to have the 1 terabyte SSD in turn, because you are not able to change it anymore. Once the SSD is an Apple device, you can never change it again. Since a year or something, I think so, because this they have a chip on the SSD sitting, which is decrypted. So if you change it, the motherboard will recognize that and it's not working anymore, which is not fine to me. Thanks a lot for sharing, Corinna. You are very welcome. I hope you found out something out of that stream. Stefano? Then I think I'll take a similar resistor for my new next machine. Now I am on i7 8-core. Yeah. I mean, you can maybe, if you're going the Cubase route with 8-core, maybe you could work with 200, 300 channels, something, depending on how many plugins you're using. But the 18-core is again a double stepped up, you know, almost more than the 8-core. I have the 8-core also here in my Slave, Vienna Ensemble Pro Slave I'm not using at the moment. And it has, I would say, 60% less performance than my 18-core right now. AR Gaming, why did you choose 1050 Ti and how much did you pay for it? It was extremely cheap to me. I think it was even used, I bought it used for $150 a year ago. I just bought it because I knew from the past, from my Slave, Vienna Ensemble Pro Slave, I had the same graphic card in, and it's working without problems, depending on Cubase, Windows, and I got 4 screens on it, 4 screen output, so I can use 4 screens on my setup. But I'm using just right now 3 screens, but I could put another screen into the setup right now. So I'm not doing any graphic card stuff on this PC, maybe some picture editing or something, maybe small videos, you know. But again, your audio setup is not a gaming device, or shouldn't be the gaming device. Because with graphic cards on PCs, this can heavily increase your latency on Cubase. I'm not sure why. It has something to do with the graphic driver stuff, etc. So for me, it was important that I know it's stable, it doesn't improve my latency. I got with Cubase, etc. So if you're using this setup, I got on the description on the YouTube video below or on kit.co, you can make sure it's working. This setup is working like a big horse, you know. Still never had any problems. And now the PC goes off now. Not really. Corinna, Samsung are the best by far. Evo are performing better than the Cubios. Yeah, that's right. That's why the Cubios are a little bit cheaper. I think the Cubios are around 400 MBs per second or something streaming. And the Evos are around maybe 500, 550 or something. I checked that as I built the PC. I think the Cubios was 450, sometimes even 500. So it's just important to know that the Cubios doesn't live as long as the Evos. I think they got just 80% of the life of the Evos. But again, I'm changing those every year. So this is okay for me. And I haven't recognized any streaming problems with the Cubios. So if you're working on a setup, on an audio setup, you know, on a studio PC or something, you can easily use the Cubios. Yeah, guys. So this was a long stream, 1 hour. Again, we compared my studio's PC 18-core Intel machine to the late Mac Pros 2019 with 24 cores. I got 18 cores, 128 gigabytes of RAM. If you compare to a similar machine from Apple with 24 cores, the same performance, even less performance than my Intel, and less RAM into it, you pay for that 15K. And we all need to think about it. If we are not really, I wouldn't say able, if we need to pay so much money just because it's Apple, you know, I don't think so. The most important thing is stability, performance, and price. That's it. And in all 3 points, my Intel, at least not every Intel machine, but my Intel machine is beating an Apple device at the moment. Not the M1 chips, but let's see if the Apple Pros are coming out with the M1 chips and how the performance will be. I guess they will be extremely heavy, expensive. So then it's again ridiculous for us. Okay. Again, for my Apple MacBook Pro M1 machine, which is coming right now in February, I paid 2K with taxes. So without taxes, I pay 1.8 or something. This is reasonable to me. But I wouldn't pay 4 or 5 core for Apple MacBook Pro late one with the same stuff you can have in there. I think the M1 Apple MacBook Pro 16 gigabytes of RAM is performing like the 32 gigabytes of RAM. In the old MacBook Pro, you can have maximum 64 gigabytes. But in the M1 machines, the RAM performance is performing much better than in the old Apple MacBooks. So yeah, people, if you don't get any more questions, let me know. Max was asking, do you know Logic Pro X? I worked in it, yeah, in the past, but I'm not working anymore for audio stuff on an Apple device, so I'm not using it. I would work always on Cubase. I mean, when I received the Apple MacBook Pro M1, I'm gonna check out the performance on Logic Pro X and the performance on Cubase. You know, how the performance will be at the end. For sure, the plugins and programs which are reprogrammed for the M1 will perform much better than the other programs which are running on, I think it's called Rosetta, the translation program, which is running than usual old programs on the M1 machine. Because what people need to be aware of is also the M1 machine has a different structure. It means it's by itself, it's not running normal programs, even old programs which were programmed for Apple or for PC. They get translated by a program called Rosetta, which is a little bit strange to me. But I hope this is working. So guys, yeah, I hope you had fun today and the stream was helpful for you. If you're looking for a PC music setup, just watch the description below in the video or just go to kit.co, Michael Maas. There you can see my music workstation kit. I also got some other kits in there. I got my music production kit here, what kind of hardware I'm using, also the audio Apollo interface here. Then I got my USB hoops, which are very important because they're powered by an external power supply. And you can see my streaming kit here, what I'm using for live streams. Okay, so if you think about live stream stuff, you can choose stuff I have here, and this is running perfectly to me, as in the stream right now. Oh yeah, Corinna, yeah, you're right. I didn't mention it. I have second audio interface from Steinberg. Basically, it's my treble interface. Oh, yeah, I see. I didn't have the window open. So I have a second interface. It's the Steinberg UR22 MK2. It's USB powered, and it's my travel interface when I'm on tour anywhere or when I'm on holiday or anywhere else. And it's my interface if my Apollo should shut down anyhow. You know, you can find the interface on the streaming kit, and I'm using this interface on the streaming kit for my microphone. So my microphone is not running through my Cubase audio interface, my microphone for streaming. External is running through my Steinberg UR22 interface, and this is working also very stable. M1. So we didn't have the window open. So on kit.cu, you can see my music production kit. I'm using the native instruments, complete control, the Mackie monitor controller. It's the one I can control my monitors, my speakers with. Works perfect. Everything I got in here is also here in my setup. Okay, so I got nothing in here which is not working. Okay, I got the Universal Audio Apollo interface. I got right now my Behringer B2 for the voice. I know a lot of streamers are using heavy, expensive microphones. You could even buy the B1 from Behringer. It doesn't have a bad sound quality, doesn't it? You see. My speakers are the Neumann KH80, which are working great in small rooms. I just got 11 square meters here. These sensors, which is also important, the USB hoops, which are powered by an extra power supply. So sometimes you need extra power supply to run something on it, you know. So I just can recommend the Anker USB hoops. My go-to mixing headphones, the Beyerdynamic DT 900 Pro. Yeah. What else do we got here? Streaming kit. The camera you can see is the GoPro Hero 5. Behringer C1. You see, that's my second microphone I got in the back. You can see the nice lightning in the background. That Rosa stuff, it's coming from the Philips Hue stuff here. And I got more Elgato Stream Deck here, which is, I got right now the small one, but I would recommend the bigger one maybe, because you have much more possibilities and option. Yeah, music workstation kit again, Corsair Tower, Intel i9 18 core, 120 gigabytes of RAM, easy, cheap graphic card with a lot of outputs, 1 terabyte M2 SSD intern, 2 times 2 terabyte extern SSD from Samsung, 2 times 1 terabyte SSD extern from Samsung, silent power supply from Corsair, then the CPU, Hydro Sirius fan, also from Corsair, Asus mainboard, Thunderbolt 3 PCI Express connection, Microsoft wireless desktop, what I got here. Then I got here on the left side my white monitor, which is running. On top I got the television, the Philips Ambilight for watching sometimes even television or the picture. It doesn't need to be expensive as this Philips Ambilight can be. Any HD monitor, or even maybe you don't need it. I like to have, if I'm scoring to picture, I like to have a big picture to it. And what most people don't know, the Blackmagic SSD dock 10GB, which is USB 3.2 connected, bandwidth of 20 gigabits per second. Again, if you're running here 4 SSDs, you never can get to 20 gigabytes per second. And if you're running them RAID, you get maybe 4 gigabytes that are running here. But I'm not running them RAID, they're running in a single mode here. And they got a bandwidth of 2,500 megabytes per second, so 2.5 gigabytes per second or something. It makes it much easier to have the SSDs extern. You can plug and play them. I mean, for sure not the iOS one, but you can plug and play them, simply replace them by others. If someone is coming to your studio, have an SSD, you don't need any more plug for USB connection. You simply connect it to your SSD dock. That's it. Perfect, people. So now let's move to the right direction. I hope so much you had fun. if you got questions, ask me questions in the comment section below. This stream will also be for a week on Twitch. It's Twitch, you only have to look for Maas, but you can find the link also in my YouTube account, I think so. Just ask me questions about the hardware and what do you think about Apple, what do you think about Intel, what do you think about AMD, which is your experience in them, etc. And I'm happy for feedback. Try my best to get better. It's more fluent right now, but my English is still worse. And yeah, so hope you have a great time, great new year, and hope to see you next week maybe, and we're presenting you a new plugin. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.